Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. Now, guys, it is finally October, and if you have followed this channel for any length of time, you probably already know that this is my absolute favorite time of year. And why is that? Why? Not because of pumpkin spice, oh no. Not because of sweater weather. It is because in October, almost everyone is a horror film fan. If not a horror film fan, then they are at least very interested in supernatural films or films that are of a darker nature. And that is absolutely my jam. I have loved the horror genre since I was a kid. I remember watching Obake films with my grandmother. I watched Poltergeist with my dad. This was just one of those things that I grew up absolutely adoring, and I still love these kinds of films today. It doesn't matter if we're talking about supernatural stories, slasher films, whatever. I'm totally there for it. So this month we are really going to do a deep dive into the genre, and we're going to look at films from different regions. We're going to look at different time periods, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And for this first week, we're actually getting things off to a bit of a softer start. This week is all about kid-friendly Halloween media. So I've got a couple of films that are very kid-friendly, and then a TV series that was specifically done for kids that I actually think is pretty scary, but a really good gateway into the genre. And what's really fantastic about these is that they're also pretty entertaining for adults too. I actually really love, just from a film standpoint, one of these pictures that I recommended to tons of people, but it absolutely does fall into the sort of kid-friendly wheelhouse. One's a really good retro nostalgic pick, and the other one is a fabulous series by a well-respected genre author. I think you're going to really love these. And hopefully, if you have a child who is interested in the genre as well, these will be a good gateway for them. As always, all of these picks are available entirely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card. And with that, let's get into the recs. Okay, kicking things off with a pick that's available on both our Hoopla digital service and our Canopy service, and that is 2011's Tales of the Night. Now, this is the pick that I'd mentioned that I recommend to people regardless of what kind of genre they're looking for or age. It's just a fantastic film. Tales of the Night is from famed French director Michel Ocelot, and it's actually a compilation film of about 5 vignettes, all having to do with the supernatural. So I would say it's not your traditional super scary horror story at all, but rather it sort of plays around with legends and myths and supernatural creatures and stories of the people around them. And it really does all of that in this phenomenally beautiful visual style. So all of the tales are done with this sort of shadow box characters with these electric backgrounds. So everything is sort of a visual punch. And then the stories have this sort of charming old world feel to them, but with that visual sort of, I don't know, extra. It just makes it feel very new and very different. I mean, we have stories about werewolves, we have stories about wizards, all kinds of supernatural beings, which a lot of us have already heard about, but it just feels very fresh. And they're all sort of woven together by this concept of this older cinema manager and his 2 young assistants, and the 2 young assistants take on these roles as they're telling you these stories. And so you have this common thread weaving through everything, but each story has its own distinct feel and flair. Now, Common Sense Media says that this is like recommended for 8+, and I would say that's probably pretty accurate. If your child is intrigued by art, if they like that sort of urban legend and mystic fairy tale vibe, I think they can absolutely get into this. And as an adult, I think you'll just really fall into what I find is quite a refreshing style, because like I said, it really is visually stunning. I mean, absolutely. If you've ever seen Sita and the Blues, Sita Sings the Blues, it has that sort of paper cut feel, but everything is that shadow box. So all of the characters are black. And then it's the color that give the color of the background that gives it a pop. And I just really, really enjoyed it. And it made the stories seem that much more new, just because I was seeing it done in such a different way than normal. So if you do have a child who's just sort of interested in that sort of supernatural vibe, this one's a good one, especially for kids who are not good with scary things, because this is definitely not scary. I would say, you know, really, even if your child hates scary things, I think this one would be okay, because it's just not, it just has those supernatural elements. So if you're looking for something that you can also watch and absolutely enjoy, I think that Tales of the Night would hit a perfect sweet spot for you to enjoy as a family. So again, available on both Hoopla and Canopy in both the original French and English language dub. Tales of the Night, it's an absolute must watch. Okay, if your child is really interested in diving into the horror genre, then you should definitely pop on over to Hoopla and set them up with R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour Seasons 1 and 2. It's all available up there. You probably already know R.L. Stine if you're at all invested in scary books. Super well respected. Goosebumps is still a fantastic, fantastic series to recommend to kids who are interested in scary things. And The Haunting Hour is one of those TV shows that is very definitely directed towards children. Common Sense Media actually gives it a 10 plus, totally accurate, I think. If you have a kid who's younger than that and is comfortable with scary, by all means. But R.L. Stine's TV series, The Haunting Hour, is legit creepy. It's got some seriously dark morality tales in there, and not everything has a happy ending. And that's something important, I think, to realize about this particular genre early on. You don't always have a happily ever after, and this stays true to that, and it stays true to that in a big way. The other thing that's really cool about this particular series is that every episode sort of features a completely different cast and storyline. So it's always quite fresh. If you just want to watch one episode a night, or, you know, only want to watch a couple episodes, it doesn't, you don't get like this letdown feeling at the end where you have to continue. You can absolutely binge this super easily, but you don't have that, you know, you don't feel compelled to, oh, I have to watch the next episode. What's going to happen? Which I think is really good with kids stuff, because, you know, pick up an episode or two, go do your homework, or go outside, do anything. And I do really like that element of this particular series. You have characters that are really pretty complex and have like really fleshed out backgrounds. So we're not dealing with just like mustache twirling villains. We've got, you know, villains with a lot of layers where you can actually sort of extrapolate reasonings for what they're doing. It's not just like, I'm bad, so I'm going to do bad things. I am bad because these things have happened, which again, really, really great to learn early on in this genre. One of the other things that is fantastic about this series, and this is probably the big one for me, the acting is incredibly well done. It's very well cast. A lot of times I find that kids directed stories, especially ones that sort of dabble in this genre, are kind of hit or miss when it comes to the acting. You might have really solid adult casts, but the kids are kind of A-okay, but not really solid. I mean, not everything can be Stranger Things, right? But this one does a really great job finding really, really solid actors of all ages. And I think that really helps carry a lot of these stories, because yes, the story is incredibly important when you're dealing with something scary. You have to be, you know, brought somewhere else when it comes to the supernatural. You have to be pulled along by that storyline in order to get out of the realm of reality. But bad acting can immediately pull you out of that. And I've seen plenty of poorly acted horror stories. So to find this entire 2-season series that is so competently put together is honestly kind of a joy that kids have an option like this. 10 plus, again, is definitely a good guideline. But I would say any kid who, even if they're younger, is someone who's comfortable with, a more complex theme could absolutely enjoy this series too. It's definitely enjoyable for adults, and not even just an adult who really likes scary stuff, but just for someone who's looking for interesting stories and wants to get caught up in them. I think this one really, really works and is a lot of fun in the end if you enjoy, scary stories. I mean, it's just really enjoyable altogether, regardless of your age. So again, if you are looking for something that is legit kind of scary and will serve as a good gateway, that you can pick up and leave off whenever you want and not feel like you're missing something or have to backtrack and watch several episodes to catch up kind of thing. The Haunting Hour really is a phenomenal, phenomenal option, and it actually gets my pick of the week just because it's so rare to find something like this so well done that works in the way that it does. So again, available on Hoopla, R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour, seasons 1 and 2. Okay, my final recommendation for this week is one that again delves more into the supernatural rather than the scary. It's available on Hoopla, and that is 1995's Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Yes, that's Sabrina the Teenage Witch. If you grew up in the 80s or the 90s, you probably remember the TV show, which of course was based on the comics. But this is the made-for-TV movie that started it all. It starred Melissa Joan Hart, who was hugely popular after her stint on Clarissa Explains It All. And she's one of the only actors that was in the made-for-TV film and in the TV series. The other really cool thing about this is that it features a very, very famous actor today. Ryan Reynolds was a featured character within this movie, and it's really interesting to see him on screen as a very young man. But it's a lot of fun. It's definitely not scary at all. So you don't have to worry about the more frightening elements of the genre. They just don't exist in this. But it is a really, really fun, nostalgic kind of pick. Wonderful if you, again, have a kid who's not really into the scary, but definitely is sort of curious about magic and things like that. This one's a good one, and it has that retro vibe because it absolutely is a film from the 90s, a TV film at that. Melissa Joan Hart does a great job as the character. She finds herself living for an extended period of time with her aunts. On her 16th birthday, rather than your standard like sweet 16 birthday, she discovers she's actually a witch, and a witch from a long line of witches, and she has to kind of come into her own, all while dealing with the normal things that you would deal with as a teenager, falling in love for the first time, bullies, things like that. And it's not that this is a story that's completely new or, off the wall. It's not. But I love the way that they put multiple themes together. Again, you've got your traditional coming of age tale, but you have that whole magic element added onto it. Plus, Melissa Joan Hart is a really serviceable actor, particularly in this role of Sabrina. One of the great things about this is you can sort of introduce kids to the sort of sweet, fluffy version of Sabrina, and then as they get a little bit older, they do have that Netflix re-envisioning, much like Riverdale. It's much darker in tone, certainly geared towards teens and up, whereas Sabrina the Teenage Witch from the 90s was absolutely geared towards younger people. And, being able to have that sort of bridged gap is really, really nice, because of course then you can move on to like much more intense scary material post the Netflix series. So yeah, I really enjoyed the Sabrina series when I was a kid, and I thought it was a lot of fun, and it's nice to sort of introduce that to a new generation. Plus, and again, it's really silly, but seeing Ryan Reynolds as a kid on screen is absolutely hilarious. Um, and it's just a fun, silly little made for TV film that does a good job of introducing you to the basic character, and then you can go into again the early Sabrina series, and then the more intense, darker themed Sabrina from the last decade, and then onward from there. So again, available on Hoopla, 1995 Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Fun little pick for you. Okay, so those were my picks for kid-friendly Halloween features. If you have any recommendations that are also kid-friendly, please, please, please comment with those below. Definitely always in need of recommendations that will speak to that audience as well as an adult audience. If you have any recommendations for themes you'd like to see in the future, definitely recommend those as well. Next week, we will be back on track for more traditional adult-oriented horror stories. But if you have a child that wants to dive into the genre too, it can be really hard to find something for them. So I hope one of these three will work for you. If not, make sure you hop on to Hoopla Digital and Canopy. Check out what's on there. There are thousands and thousands of options. You will absolutely find something. So definitely be sure to check those out. As always, thank you so, so much for tuning in. I really do love putting these together. Being able to dive into our catalog is always a joy, particularly when it is my favorite genre. So again, thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye!